You look fine, but you're not fine. And that's exactly what we're here to talk about. Welcome to Fine, But Not Fine, the podcast about navigating rare disease, healthcare battles, and the messy reality of chronic illness. I'm Kelly Paul, and I've been living with mycosis fungoides since 2015. This is a space for real talk, real experiences, and practical advice. Because surviving is one thing, but figuring out how to actually live, that's the hard part. Hey everyone! In this episode, I'm going to talk all about specialty pharmacies. How you get assigned one, why it can change depending on your insurance or medication, and what makes the experience a little different. From how you refill a prescription to how that medication gets delivered to your door. And that's because specialty pharmacies are a critical part of managing really complex or rare conditions. But most people just don't hear about them until they need one. And unlike your local retail pharmacy, these specialty pharmacies are designed to handle high-cost, high-complexity medications that often require special handling, close monitoring, and coordination with your healthcare team. These are medications that are typically for rare, chronic, or serious diseases. Think things like rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis, human immunodeficiency, so HIV, right? Psoriasis, genetic disorders, infertility, cancer, and more. Now, these medications can be oral. When I took Targretin, it was an oral chemotherapy I got from a specialty pharmacy. It can also be an infusion or an injectable, like my current prescription for Pegasus interferon is an injectable that I get through a specialty pharmacy. And these medications often require close monitoring for side effects, and patients taking them often have a lot of lab tests and sometimes dose fluctuations or changes. And the pharmacists here are often trained in specific disease categories. Like right now, when I call my current specialty pharmacy, I have to pick my condition type from a menu. Like press 1 for dermatology or 2 for cardiology. And just in case you're curious, as of 2023 in the U.S., there were roughly 1,750 pharmacies accredited from one or both of the organizations that dominate accrediting for specialty pharmacies. These are the Accreditation Commission for Healthcare, which is ACHC, and the Utilization Review Accreditation Commission, URAC. And for some perspective, this is about 3% of the pharmacies in the U.S., and about 2% of the population uses medications from specialty pharmacies. So how do you get a specialty pharmacist or a specialty pharmacist? Well, these aren't pharmacies you can just walk into. Your insurance company selects it. And at least that's how it works for me and those of us with insurance. And these pharmacies can change depending on your medication. And this is because insurance companies may have negotiated different agreements for different prices with different specialty pharmacies for different medications. So this is a cost control measure. So for example, when I was on Targretin, I got that from CVS Specialty Pharmacy. And the Pegasus interferon, I get that from UNC Health Specialty Pharmacy. And when Targretin wasn't working for me anymore, and I switched to Pegasus, I had to onboard to a completely new pharmacy. I pretty much went from having a pharmacy where I could do everything I needed online after the initial consultation to one that, well, from my perspective, seems to eschew doing anything online. It all has to be done personally over the phone, which can be a bit difficult for someone who works for a living because the pharmacy doesn't schedule appointments. I have to respond when they call or call them back and wait on hold until they're ready. So what makes a specialty pharmacy so different? And there are several things. Communication is one. Refills are not automatic. I get a call right now. I used to get a text message that I have to take this phone call and speak with the pharmacist. They want me to confirm that I haven't skipped any doses, I haven't changed any of my medications, and that I still need the medication. And this can be a little bit frustrating. As I said, they don't schedule appointments. And I spend a lot of time in meetings with clients and team members at work, so I have to watch my phone for who's calling and take it at their convenience, not mine. As to payments, I can give them a credit card each time, or they can keep one on file. I just have them keep one on file so they can quickly process my order and send out my medication. And there are storage requirements. Generally, at least for what I've accessed through specialty pharmacies, are temperature related. Right now, since I'm on a relatively close proximity to my current specialty pharmacy, my refrigerated medications are couriered and left on my front porch when no one is home, if I'm not there to take it in. And it's packed with insulation and those, freezer packs like you'd put in a beer cooler, right? To make sure that it doesn't warm up enough to render the medication invalid. And when I was on Targaretin, it came from a pharmacy that was in a completely different state, and it was delivered to me through a service provider like UPS. I don't remember exactly which service provider it was. And regular pharmacies don't stock these medications because of the cost and the security involved. When I was on Targaretin, the monthly cost of my daily medication was more than $14,000 a month. My current injectable is more than $1,000 for each injection, and I take one of those each week. And a lot of these medications are hazardous and require really strict storage and handling protocols that just don't make sense for regular pharmacies to manage. Even the Targaretin, the pill I had, in the strange things of medications, right? It says I wasn't supposed to touch it. So I was supposed to take it without touching it until I guess it went on my tongue and I swallowed it and it was touched by the inside of my body as opposed to the outside of my body. So you have to store really expensive medications in a secure way, even beyond pharmacy secure. And then they all have to be stored at different temperatures, different shelf life, different interactions. So there's a reason that these pharmacies really exist. And one of the reality is that the need for patients to get medications that specialty pharmacies provide is growing. If you just think about it, in 2024, the FDA approved something like 37 new drugs that were in this specialty medication class. And the increasing prevalence of chronic illness and complex therapies, right, means there are more people like me or you or whoever you care for that need the medications that specialty pharmacies manage. And the CDC says 4 in 10 adults in the U.S. have 2 or more chronic diseases, and 6 in 10 have 1. And there is a rise of what are called biosimilar medications as drug patents expire. For example, in 2023, there were 9 biosimilars for Humira that made the drug more affordable, hence accessible. And as this happens with specialty medications, patients will get better access to life-saving medications, further increasing prescription volume in specialty pharmacies. Now, for me personally, I have had 3 different medications that came from 3 different specialty pharmacies so far in my life, and the experience between them was significantly different. At one pharmacy, I had the initial conversation with the pharmacist. I provided patient information and where to ship the medications, and that was that. I refilled when necessary. It was fairly simple, non-memorable, right? At another, with a much more expensive drug, I did the initial onboarding same as before, but I had to request refills at each refill point and then provide an inventory of pills consumed and pills remaining. They would not ship my refill until my inventory went below a certain number. I never figured out what the magic number was. I think it was somewhere around 11 was as far as I made it. And this was all done online through an app on my phone. I could call in if I wanted to, but heck, I work a full-time job, I have a commute, and a life I want to live. I do not want to be spending all my time on the phone when I can do everything quickly in an app. Now at my current pharmacy, I'm going to say it, it's almost as if it's entirely run by Luddites. Nothing, and I mean nothing for me, can be done online. Heck, I can't even schedule an appointment. So right now, after getting onboarded, this is how my refills work. The pharmacist calls me when I come up on his or her list to call. No set time, no set day, nothing, at least that's been communicated to me. It's just when they call me. Well, I guess maybe there is sort of a set time. It's only during their working hours from something like 9 in the morning to 4 p.m. on weekdays and not holidays. So, anyway, if I'm able to answer the call, I work, remember, then I have a conversation with the pharmacist about whether I've missed any doses, whether any of my medications have changed since we last talked, whether I've experienced any new side effects, whether I've discussed any of the above with my prescribing physician. Then they verify how I want to pay. They inform me what date my next delivery will be received. Now, if I'm not able to answer that phone at the beginning of this process, I call them back. And usually the pharmacist is on another call because guess what they're doing? They're making outbound calls to patients. And if I leave a message, they may or may not call me back that day or the next, which I start getting worried about not getting my refill on time. So then I in turn call them back, and I might be on hold or I might have to leave another message, but it's all so we can start the conversation to get my prescription refilled. Now, from where I sit, this is highly inefficient. I've asked if I can schedule an appointment for my conversation with the pharmacist each month. The answer? Nope, can't do that. I know, it's crazy. I have no idea how people working in roles that don't have flexibility manage this. Y'all know I work a full-time job and it's client-focused. This whole process just adds to the stress of having a chronic disease. I truly believe there has to be a better way, but I can see the perspective from the business model because I can't pick up and leave and go to another pharmacy with a better setup. So I do what many of us do. I adapt. I track my refills. I answer calls when I can. I ask questions even when I know the answer may not change. But I also speak up about the gaps because the system can't improve if patients stay silent. Specialty pharmacies are necessary, but that doesn't mean the way they operate works for everyone. If you're navigating this too, you are not alone, and you are not wrong for thinking there has got to be a better way. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to Fine But Not Fine. If this episode resonated with you, subscribe so you don't miss what's next. And if you got a story, question, or just need to vent, reach out. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, take care and keep on going.